Hey, it's Freiberger, and I'm about to show you a sample episode of a show that we do on MotorTrendOnDemand.com that's called Roadkill Extra. It shows up every single weekday. It's got stuff like outtakes from shows, behind-the-scenes stuff, tech tips, you name it. You can see them all with a free trial at MotorTrendOnDemand.com. Hey, it's Freiberger here. This time I'm going to give you an update on the Crusher Impala, our 1969 Chevy Impala that we put our blown big block Chevy into. Now, this is going to be a bit of a spoiler. This is the car that is going to be in an upcoming episode of Roadkill Garage, and so I'm going to show you some of the things we're doing there. So if you don't want to find that out in advance, shut off this Roadkill Extra right now. But if you want to see deeper inside the car, probably into some stuff you haven't seen before, then go ahead and watch. So first of all, this mammoth trunk. I don't know if you recall that I had a problem with this thing where it ran out of fuel at the top end on the drag strip, and so it needed a better fuel system. And so when it was back on the show circuit, because this thing was at Roadkill Nights and a bunch of the Zip Tie Drags events all throughout the summer, when it was coming home from, I forget, Norwalk, Ohio, our buddies at Pilot took the thing up to Diversified Creations in Brighton, Michigan, and I had them put another fuel system on it. So that's what's going on right here. This thing is making space for an Aeromotive drop-in fuel pump that's on top of the stock gas tank. That's probably really dark in the video, but you get the idea what's going on there. And man, is this trunk big. I love this car. And I like this trick. I've never seen this before, and I have to give Tech Center manager Kalen credit for it. So this thing doesn't have a lock cylinder in it, so I normally just carry a screwdriver, shove it in there, and click. Look how he's put a bolt in the lock cylinder. What he did is he filed the end of the bolt with flat sides so that it would go into the lock mechanism so that it would turn, and then put nuts on both sides of it so it won't come out. So now we have a permanent trunk key. So that's what's going on there. Let me show you the interior of this thing, because you have not probably had much of a chance to see this. So the last time we ran this thing was in the episode where we did this car versus the Rotson, and we spiffed it up at that point, more so than it had been when we had butchered it together on the episode with Mighty Car Mods. When we did that, once again, Tech Center Kalen took apart the front seat and welded it so that this thing no longer requires like a spare tire in the back to hold the seat up. The seat is still plenty shredded and held together with gaff tape and everything, but it's super comfy, and we've just got this Mexican blanket with holes cut in it for the seat belts and stuff. So believe it or not, even though this looks sort of hacked, it's pretty good. Look at the rest of the interior in this thing. It's not as bad of a car as it appears to be at first glance. I mean, everything's in it. The dash pad is pretty cracked. The steering wheel is the worst part of it. It's totally gacked, but you can see I've wrapped the thing in gaff tape here because it was cutting our hands with all the cracks in it. So we might end up fixing that. And yes, it has an actual nut on the steering wheel. Do you remember when we had a zip tie on here holding this on? One of the most unsafe things we've ever done. So that's what that is. That's probably about it for the interior. Moving around up front. Oh, you know what? Before we go up front, here's another thing. Come on over here, and you can see, you know how we put the Roadkill stickers on the side of the car? I kind of wanted to take them off. I just thought it was a little bit too much. I mean, we did it for that Mighty Car Mods episode, but I don't know, kind of garish. But look, when you go to peel it off, it's taking all of the paint with it. Oh, look, that part's not taking, well, yeah, it is kind of taking paint with it. And so I'm considering, am I going to peel it off and have it end up saying Roadkill in primer like this? I think so. I think it could be pretty cool. Much more subtle than what we got going on right now. So we'll experiment with that a little bit. You can see if you sight down this side of the car, this is the worst part of it. This car is like pretty rust-free. It's got a little bit down here in the bottom of the fender, but look at the dents. This is like old lady dents, because we got this thing from a guy who had gotten it from the original owner, and he just bought it to flip it. But that fender's maimed. This is a big dent right here. It's got a giant crease here, another one here, giant dent there, more in the back, and the other side's not quite as bad. But that's what makes this thing kind of okay to hack up, because while it's a pretty clean, functional, good car, it's also something nobody's ever going to restore, which is why we felt good about putting the blower on it. So This is the thing people ask me about most on social media. Everyone is aware that when we did the episode with the Rotson, we had a problem with our old supercharger in that the Teflon strips in it were completely worn out. And so I had to overdrive the blower a bunch just to get 4 PSI a boost, and that was just completely non-efficient. Now in that trim, I forget what it ran in the episode, but it has run a best of, I think, 1168 or something like that. I think I ran at Norwalk, Ohio at the zip tie drags. So the thing is pretty quick, even with the bad blower, but it does have a new supercharger on it. I want to thank Wyand, the guys at Holley Performance, for sending that out to us. So we just straight up replaced that old satin Teflon stripped blower with this brand new polished 871 supercharger. And oddly enough, once that was installed, the tune-up has just completely gone away on this thing. It is dead lean at part throttle. I'm thinking the power valves aren't opening, and so we're going to end up having to fiddle with that to make it good again. But once we do, I expect the car will be faster than ever. And that's the stuff that you're going to end up seeing on a future episode of Roadkill Garage. So keep your eye peeled for that. If you need more Roadkill Extra, go sign up right now.